Good morning, everybody. I'm Melissa Nielsen with Waldorf Essentials. I hope you're having a wonderful day. So far, it's really early here on the West Coast, so lots of people are still wiping the sleepy out of their eyes, including myself. Been up for about 30 minutes. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. This is our first day of school, so a little bit of excitement here in the Nielsen house this week. And I just wanted to take a few minutes before I start our topic and just talk about online conflict for a minute. There's been a lot of online conflict in Facebook groups lately, some of it that I keep getting pulled into, and all I can say is this. When you're in conflict with somebody online, the absolute best thing to do, rather than launch back in or pack up your bag and go home or decide that that person is terrible, is to ask. Some of the first rules in communication are to ask each other, hey, what did you mean by this? Hey, why is it that you said this? Or, I don't like the way you're sounding. You're hurting my feelings. This is how I feel when you do. Like nonviolent communication. And we talk about nonviolent communication a lot in Waldorf. Definitely not sold on it for little kids. But I definitely think that as we're older, and as children get older, that's how we end up communicating in our homes in an effective way. When you did this, I felt blank. Is that what you meant? Did you mean to make me feel that way? And I know it's really hard in Facebook settings, especially in a lot of the groups that I've seen. It tends to move so fast, so fast, so fast. And people are, rather than thinking what they're going to say, they're shooting out things. And sometimes those things come out really bad. Really bad. I know I've probably said some things that have come out really bad, gone back and tried to correct them when I know that they hurt somebody's feelings or frustrate somebody. But if I don't know, then I can't correct it. I can't fix it. I can't remedy it. I can't say, hey, this is actually what I was talking about. And so also, things to remember, the internet is a really hard place to discern tone. So, you could say the exact same words, and discerning tone is really hard when it comes to written across the internet. And so I think that's where it's even most important to really stop and ask. It's important to stop and ask what somebody meant. And like I said, I know that these Facebook groups and these threads move fast, fast, fast. And I think that if there's something that's really heated, it's worth asking the admins, hey, can you close commenting for a little bit? Just so that some of us that are maybe a little more heated can take a breath and figure out some better things to say so that we don't get caught up so much in the emotion. Because, as women, we're very emotional beings. I think that we tend to wear our hearts on our sleeve. We tend to be, fighting for whatever cause that it is that we feel needs elevation, fighting for our children. We're almost always ready to fight. And so I think that comes across the keyboard, and it comes across in what it is that we're saying. And, some of the biggest blessings that I've had over the last, 4 years or so that I've really been active on Facebook is the fact that if there's something that really triggers me or that makes me want to yell and scream and choke somebody, I take a deep breath and I walk away, and then I come back to it. And while I've walked away, I say a little prayer that I may say the right things, that I may transcend whatever I might be feeling and actually say what needs to be said. And so that doesn't always come through for what I write, but I really try. I really try to make sure that whatever it is that I'm responding to, I respond to with thoughtfulness. Now, sometimes it's really hard as an admin of groups, and I've left adminning some of the bigger groups because I don't have the time to be in that every day, and I prefer a much smaller setting for the most part, and so that's why we have our group like Ask Melissa, and so we have our Thinking, Feeling, Willing groups for those that are members there. So we have that so that it can be a more intimate setting, that hopefully the people in the group do get to know each other. When we have thousands of people in a group, it's really hard as an admin to rein in and make sure where everything is. And so, like I said, I left those big groups for those reasons, that I really much prefer a much smaller setting. So consider that when you are looking at what groups to join. Also, consider that you don't have to join every group. Often what I saw when I was active on all of them is a lot of the Waldorf groups are talking about the same sorts of things. So you can feel comfortable, fairly comfortable, asking the same question in one place rather than 15 places. And so think about that. Think about the groups that you're on. If Facebook is a problem for you as a mom, I definitely think you should go, wait a minute, what is my usage? Now I have this app on my phone that tells me how many hours I've been on each app every day. And usually I look at it at the end of the day and I go, okay, that's consistent. I understand there. That was my German lesson. This was emails to somebody. This was, and then I look at the Facebook part and if it's out of balance, I go, okay, what was going on today that had me looking so much? Was my ego needing to be stroked? And so I needed to take some pictures so that people could put some likes on there? Was it that I was in a really heated discussion? Was it that I was talking to family that I haven't talked to in a long time? What was it? So examine what you're doing online. And also, one of the things that I tried to be really conscious of this weekend, and my assistant Kelly and I had, there is a specific thread on a group that we have that we closed comments on, and it was not to shut anybody off because comments will be reopened sometime today, but it was so that she and I could take a breath. Because as admins, you might think to yourself, oh, there's two of them. Well, yeah, there's two of us, and there's like 650 of you. And so it was easier for us to turn commenting off so that she and I could take a deep breath. Because like I said, I'm starting school today. I wanted to be centered and ready for my family because they come first. And your family should always come before any kind of conflict that's going on the internet. Always. So I stepped away and she stepped away so we could both take a deep breath and decide how we're going to then move on. And so, think about those things. If you're admin in groups, don't be afraid to turn off comments. People get mad. People get really mad. Don't silence me. I'm not silencing. I'm just asking everybody involved to take a deep breath and step away for a few minutes. So I hope that's helpful to some of you. I have a lot of moms, a lot of messages lately about, and it kind of comes in cycles, about all these Facebook groups, and there's so many angry people. What should I do? And which one should I hang on to? Or I get a lot of messages, hey, I'm just letting you know, I'm going off of Facebook. I decided that this conflict was so ugly that I decided I'm taking a long break. I'm going to keep Messenger on my phone so that I can talk to you, but I'm taking a long break. And you know what? To that, I say rah, rah, because I think there is amazing things on Facebook, amazing things. There are amazing causes that we can be part of, education that we can be part of, either taking or giving to somebody. There are amazing things that we can do with Facebook, but there's also that element of it stirs us up and it keeps us going. And I'm not so sure that it isn't on purpose from those that run that. I was listening to a lady at church yesterday, and she said she had watched a TED Talk, and I'm going to have to go hunt it down now, that was by a Google, it was a Google executive. He was a former Google executive. And he said that one of the things that he got to do was to pick what you saw, what was in front of your face. So they're very much about engineering things to frustrate us, engineering stories. Oh, you looked at this story, so you must want to see a whole bunch of stuff about this, or oh, this, and oh, it looks like your name's being pulled over here, so you need to see this. So keep that in mind when you're using technology, especially today. It's everywhere. It's very pervasive, and if you're on Facebook at all, then they know what your likes are, and so they are advertising to you based on your likes, and they're bringing you stories based on your likes. And I'm not so convinced that the morning, when you pull up your Facebook page, I'm not so convinced that that's random. People have told me that, oh, it's just random. It's just based on what your friends are doing. I don't think so. I think that often you're seeing things that may be controversial on purpose. And so I want you to take that into account and really check in with that. I am definitely not saying don't engage. I'm thinking that if you feel like that you can add to a conversation and you can do it in a peaceful manner and you can spread more of that or educate somebody in a non-condescending manner, if you can be really careful about the words that you use, then I think that you should definitely dive in. If you can be sort of an ally for peace in that way, then for sure do it. It is dang hard. And, we've spent a lot of time, especially this weekend, re-examining and examining again some of our standpoints on things and bringing more things together. And we have some announcements we'll be making later today. But I just wanted to say, please, please, please take care when you are in online situations. And when there is conflict with somebody and somebody really makes you mad and frustrates you or makes you sad and makes you cry, talk to them. Ask them first, what did you mean by that? That really hurt me. Because honestly, the person writing it probably doesn't know. I didn't. So anyway, now let's move on to splitting your grade. I've had a lot of questions about this. I get this question all the time, and it's sort of right in front of me right now because, I was really confident. If you had asked me a year ago, when's Soraya going to start first grade, I would have said, duh, in September of 2018. And I think I did probably say that in a lot of instances. I was all for that. And about a month and a half ago, she came to give me a hug for something, and her mouth was open, and I looked in her mouth, and her two bottom ones were like, not where they should be. They're all hanging there, all wiggly, and she hadn't even noticed. And so it made me go, all right, maybe I need to rethink some things. She's an end of April 22nd birthday. She is also preemie. She wasn't supposed to be born until the end of May, beginning of June. So I've had some decisions that I've had to make for her that I didn't think I would have to make. And when Samuel's June 14th birthday, we just started him in September after he turned 7. He's been the easiest first grader out of all my kids to teach, easiest, because he was older, he was ready. Everything has come very naturally to him. We've not had very many struggles at all because he was ready and he was on it and he was willing to work. And he's phlegmatic, for those of you who don't know what that temperament or what his temperament is. So I'm sort of showing you or telling you, yes, this is his temperament, and his age were, that those combinations were perfect for him. Soraya is a little more intense, kind of like her mom. And I know I could have taught her to read a year ago, but that's not what we do. And so we've sort of been on this, like, what should we do with her? So she had asked for some new stories. I can't teach kindergarten to her with the same stories that I wrote for her brother. All of you all can, because you didn't write the stories for one specific child. I wrote the stories for Super Sam. Before there was a baby bird, before there was a Soraya, I wrote those stories. I wrote those stories with him in mind. So, when you read about Lola the turtle, that's his little turtle animal that he had. When you read about his favorite color is orange. When you read about all of those things, those were all things that were very specific to Sam. And so they're not specific to Soraya. And she's heard those stories. She's heard those stories. We have the storybook of it. She's been read to. She has asked him to tell her the stories. So very much so, she needed new stories. So for the last year, I've kind of been toying with this idea of how I was going to do that, if I was going to write a full kindergarten supplement about it, or what I was going to do. So what I have decided is that it's not going to really be a kindergarten supplement. It will be a collection of stories that you can use during this time period before first grade. There's going to be some exploration of color. There's going to be some exploration of some fairy tales towards the end of it. And it is going to be about Baby Bird and about her journeys with this unicorn. Because unicorns pervade my house, like, I used to love them as a child, but not as much as this child does. Holy cow. So we're going to write unicorn stories that will take us from September to December. And like I said, those are the kind of the topics. I said a little bit in our blog post that ran this morning what we had planned to do, and I will be detailing that more maybe this week I'll have some time to put it all together and at least get you started if you're wanting to follow along with us. I would not follow along with us for, hey, these are the lessons I'm doing right now. I would follow along with us for these are great extra stories, because I don't want that pressure of, oh no, I don't have it done for the week. I have a good part of it laid out, but I don't want to mess anybody up. So please don't follow us week by week when it comes to that. Use them more as extra stories and fun stuff. So what am I going to do the second half of the year? I toyed with, should I start our grade 1 the second half of the year? I'm not convinced that, even though she will be at that point, she'll be 6 and 8 months. I'm not convinced that she will be, no wait, she'll be a little bit older than that. No, she'll be 6 and 8 months. That's right. I'm not convinced that she will be 100% ready for the first grade material that I have from our curriculum. So I found this book. Somebody at the conference that I went to in South Carolina had it, and I've been eyeballing it for a long time, but I had no idea it was this larger format, and I just hadn't had a chance to pick it up and look at it. But this book, The Alphabet, and I know it's mirrored for you. It's The Alphabet. It's by Reg Down. So it's the subtitle is How Pinecone and Pepperpot, with the help of Tiptoes Lightly and Farmer John, learned Tom Nutcracker and Juneberry their letters. And so it's very sweet. We read the Tiptoes Lightly books already. It's got beautiful, great little simple illustrations in it. And so I think we will start this. There are 31 chapters, and I went ahead and laid it out so that I can take her from January to May, the end of May. So that way, we have it in, a place that it can all take place in one. I don't have to divide it over the summer. Then what I have planned to do is next fall, when I was going to anyways, we will start the grade 1 material. She may be reading by then. That will be great. She'll be like any other first grader that steps in and is starting to read. We will also, with regards to this, probably be doing some music. We will definitely be teaching. We will be teaching knitting, starting in about January. She does a whiz on the Lucette and on the tower and on the mushroom, and she can finger knit like 10 miles. So she's ready for another challenge. She's doing a lot of weaving right now. Probably let her do that a little bit longer as I sort of lay out what handwork things I want to do with her. We'll probably spend some time seeing if we can card some wool and play with it that way. Maybe do some spinning. Definitely going to do some dyeing. So we're going to do all of these little bits and things that will lead up to what we're going to do in first grade. And we'll detail some of that in the stories that we're doing, the unicorn stories. So that's sort of our plan for her. I am not a stranger to splitting the year, though. I have not always split. Let me back up. So my second son, he was a early March birthday, but very much not interested in first grade when we started in the fall. So when we started in the fall, his birthday was in March, and he was 6 and 6 months or something like that. So when we started, like so much so that he would say to me, I do not want you to teach me anything. And I was like, all right. So we just did stories. He didn't think he was learning anything. We just did the stories and did the art, and we painted and we did drawings and we modeled and we did all of those things. And then right before his 7th birthday, we were walking home from church, and it was after him trying to decipher what the hymnal said, which was really kind of funny. So side note, my husband, bless him, he's an amazing human being. When the children can't read yet and they're trying to follow along in the hymnal, he teaches them to sing peas and corn instead. I'm not opposed to this. As long as they can keep the tune with the rest of the music, I don't care if they're singing peas and corn. So his point on the way walking home from church was, I'm tired of singing peas and corn. I want to know what it actually says. But he didn't say those words. He turned to Eric and said, my mom won't teach me how to read. And Eric started laughing and looked at him and said, oh, yes, she will. And so he sat down, though, and we read in like a couple of days because he was ready. He was ready. We'd been working on it. We'd been doing all the stories. We'd been doing the drawings. And even though he did not want me to teach him anything, he was absorbing. And, but with that, we always sort of felt like he was not quite ready for the new school year every year. And so we always sort of shifted about 2 blocks from one year to the next fall. And so if you've got a child like that and you're trying to figure out like, how do I do that? Like I said, I went ahead and I would just look at the year. It's a little bit harder with first grade. With first grade, we lucked out in that he was, just ready to read. The following September, we did a few more fairy tales, and then we started into the second grade work. So that's what I would suggest to you. The grades that it will be the hardest on are first and third. So third, you're kind of following the Jewish year, and so you might have to really look because those festivals change every year. Really look at when the dates are, and don't be afraid to go, oh, well, we're going to just follow the rest of them up in the fall. Don't be afraid to do that. Just really take care in your planning with, especially, like I said, with first and third. First so much because you're really trying to get through the letters and then you're starting the reading process. So think about that. Now, at the end of first grade, we've got some environmental blocks. So you should be able to get to a place where you've got all the letters introduced before you sort of split the year. And then if that's the case, you're doing that sort of splitting part of it. Try to work on those letters over the summer. That's what we'll be doing. We'll take the alphabet book here and just sort of see where she's at over the summer. So then what we did with him through all the grades is we just would look at go, okay, well, I'm going to take these 2 blocks and I'm going to move them down. It's generally not a big deal. I don't move around and take out of sequence any history blocks because that would be crazy. You will be confused and lost, and your child will be confused and lost. So don't mix up history. Keep history all in one, like congruent. Don't move those blocks around. A lot of times I tended to move maybe some sciences, maybe some new math concepts to the next school year. I always start with bringing in some review, some form drawing review in the first weeks. But I don't just do that. And so we always try to make sure that he was totally ready for the new material. And by doing that, by just shifting 2 blocks, it worked out so well for him. So when he was in 10th grade, he went to public school. And so some of you will ask me, well, what the heck, when you split a year like that, does it mess them up if they have to go to school eventually? No. He went to public school. He transitioned beautifully. There was no worry. A lot of it because I really truly feel that, especially through the grades, I know a lot of people say, oh, Waldorf is so behind in the beginning because of the way they look at reading. Those kids catch up so fast, I'm telling you, so fast. There is no, and in fact, I wouldn't even call it a catching up. At home, when you're doing Waldorf at home, there really is no catching up. You're just spending first grade learning to read instead of kindergarten learning how to read. And a lot of kids most children are reading by the end of first grade in some way, even if it's just Matt, Cat, Sat, Rat. They're doing some kind of reading. They're in a springing off place by the end of first grade. So I would never say that they were behind. In fact, like I started to say, they are usually ahead. They're ahead in their writing skills. If you've been doing summary work from first grade on up and you've been teaching them sequentially and things have been getting harder and they've been working on spelling organically and they've been working on all of those things organically throughout the work that you're doing within the curriculum, then they will be ready for public school no matter where they have to step in. One of the things that I find really interesting in the families that come to Waldorf late, maybe they've pulled their child out of public school, is that they don't know how to write, or they're struggling with writing, or they think it's a struggle, and mom's not quite sure how to foster that and work with that. We do have a video on writing in the Waldorf education, so please go back and look at that, and feel free to ask me questions if you have them. But as far as what to do, then is you're building that all through. So the public school kids aren't getting it in that concentrated way. They are getting a lot, I know they're working on writing in public school. I'm not saying they're not. It's just in a very different way. The way we're working on it, where we're doing summaries together, first through third grade, together, they're learning what a summary actually is, how to construct it, they're organically learning that because we're doing it together. Often in the public school setting, and a lot of other homeschoolers, they're throwing a first grader into that. And that is great for some kids who are really good at writing, but other kids that might feel stuck, it is not so great. So I always say, work together on those summaries for a while, and then push them off on their own. By about the end of third grade, beginning of fourth grade, that's when I start saying, okay, so I'll get you started, but then you're writing this summary. It's also the time that that we look at making sure that our penmanship is the best. We're really looking at punctuation. We're looking at spelling, and sometimes we have to redo things. And I can't remember if I mentioned this on another video. When I went to South Carolina, I met this great Waldorf teacher I think he was from Charlotte. He was amazing. And he'd been a Waldorf teacher for a lot of years out here in the West, in the East, Steiner, in Sacramento, all over the place. And he said, if they do it sloppy, they do it again. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because that's not what every Waldorf teacher would say. Every Waldorf teacher wouldn't say, do it again. Some of them would say, oh, well, it just has to stay that way. It just has to be a testament of how lazy this child was this day, or how hurried they were that day. And so it was encouraging to me as a homeschooler, because I'm often telling people, you should think about having them do it again if it's really bad. So my kids pretty much know that if they do a poor job on purpose, and I'm not talking about their skills, they're just not developed. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when they're not putting forth their best effort, they get to do it again. So my kids have always grown up with, I'm going to do my best effort because this lady is going to make me do it again. And so keep that in mind when you're, I know I'm sort of talking major general homeschooling, but really my focus is the split year and sort of how we can work with their abilities as they're growing, and really sort of watch them as they're unfolding. It's such a beautiful time. Don't be afraid to split your year. They meld into, I love Kelly. She says, laziness gets you to do it twice. Yes, it does. My kids aren't lazy in that way. They're like, oh no, I can't be lazy with school. I can be lazy with anything else. But school and chores, that lady won't make me do it again. I guess I will. So that's how they learn. That's how we learn, right? Like if we don't do it right and we kind of threw and did it half-assed, then shouldn't we have to do it again? And we don't need a society of people who think that halfway is the right way. So, and unfortunately we have that going on a lot in our society, in our government, and yeah, I'm just not going to go there right now because it's really ugly. Anyway, so don't be afraid to split your year. Don't be afraid that your kids won't be able to someday integrate if they needed to integrate into the public school system. Like I said, I think that you'll find that they're ahead. The only things, because people ask me all the time, how did Jacob do when he moved into public high school? Were there struggles? The only struggle that he had, so keep in mind, if you're new to us, my ex-husband made us test when they were younger, and so I always sort of knew where they all were anyway. So I didn't really have any worries. But when your child goes to, when you're a curriculum writer and a homeschooler and have a public face, and your child decides to go to public school, you sort of hold your breath a little bit to make sure that this crash and burn situation, that it actually turns out okay. And it did. It turned out really okay. He did a really good job. He graduated last year. But when he did move into that situation, the only thing that he had struggles with were where we hadn't been doing Common Core math. We've been doing Waldorf math. He just needed some help getting sort of all the vernacular down. So he took some time with a tutor for just a couple of weeks. Once he got their verbiage down, it was easy for him to then translate it. It was no big deal. He did great in all of his subjects. So I want to encourage you that might be the only place that, but most teachers, if you talk to them and you take the time to then express, hey, we're making this transition, especially if it's not a transition you want to make and you're really making it because you have to, maybe you've gone through a divorce or you've got to go back to work or something like that. go in and talk to the teacher, talk to the principal. Usually they're empathetic about, hey, I know you don't really want to be here, but I'm your only choice. And so talk to them about that, and talk to them about how you're feeling, about where you think your child is, about where you think their struggles might be. Get a heads up. Go to, if you know what's happening, and I know we're right on the school year now, but in the future, or maybe now you do this as supplement, go to Barnes & Noble or one of those big box bookstores, unless you can find it at a little box bookstore, it'll be fine too, and get one of their learning skills based on the Common Core workbooks for your child's age, so that you can get the verbiage together, so that you can help them understand, because the wording is different. And so that takes some transition. But that's really the only transition stuff that we ever experienced. His teachers called me, not my ex-husband who lives in the same town, they called me, who lives 2 states away, to tell me what a great student he was. And so, I think that you can really have that if that is a need, if you have a child that needs to transfer later into public school, or because they have a desire to, and you as a family agree that it's an okay thing, then, for sure, I think that they'll be just fine, better than fine. They might be the most popular kid in the school because they know things that other people don't know. So, but I don't think Harry and Ellie will ever go, and I highly doubt that Sam and Soraya will ever go, but you never know. I didn't think Soraya would be in first grade this year either. Be interesting times. So anyways, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. If you're starting school, yay, we're right there with you today. I'm going to go up and finish my prep work now. And if you have any questions, and I want to come back to what I started with, if you have any questions about anything that I've ever said, whether it be in print, on the phone, in writing somewhere on the internet, please send me a message. Don't assume. I don't like it when people assume. People don't like it when people assume about them. I don't like it when people assume about me. So just ask. I'm an open book. Ask. That's why I have a group called Ask Melissa. I'm an open book. Ask. So, anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you later. Bye now.